he's
of this room
asking is
knows.
because the
No,
dude
hold on.
said,
This is fine. This is fine. I'm okay with answering this. I'm okay with it. I I sit on a federal bench within the United States federal judiciary. I'm not getting more specific than that due to documents.
That's all we were looking for, Brent. Thank you.
Okay, I know Anson was trying to get in. Anson, or does Emperor have like some rebuttal? Because Anson wants to get in the queue. Anson, Emperor, did you need to say anything?
Yeah,
Thank you.
not really rebuttals. I'm in full agreement with Brent. I have never said that UN Charter governs domestic law. I have said that according to the U.S. Constitution, under the Supremacy Clause, under which the UN Charter was ratified, the treaty, here's the wording, all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. Now, that doesn't mean that overrules the Constitution, right? Or it's on equal ground of Constitution. There are Supreme Court rulings on this stuff that Brent can talk about, but UN Charter does not govern domestic issues of the United States. UN Charter governs international relations, right? And the things that UN Charter outlines as responsibilities of member states are not only the stuff that goes through Security Council, although that includes too, as Brent has discussed, right? Stuff like other responsibilities that are part of the UN Charter itself, right, is refrain from the threat of using of force, right? A prohibition of the crime of aggression, of attacking another state outside of self-defense, right? Threats against states' territorial integrity or political independence, that's Article 2 stuff, right? Like, this is all international relations stuff. So, yeah, those are obligations on the United States.
The Iraq war proves that we don't need it because the UN was against it and the U.S. said, fuck it, we're going to invade it. And we went through in 2003. So again, you finish talking and you can't, and you want everybody to do this one mic thing, but you can't shut your own fucking pie hole. So again, that whole level of respect.
Are you, do you need a hard...
I know, I think you just need to shut up.
Okay, we're going to move on to Anson. Anson would like to speak. We're just going to move on to Anson. Go ahead, Anson.
Wow. I looked at the poll, and I wonder, based on the results of the poll above, the quality of K-12 education. And then I think about the quality of discussion on Clubhouse. And I again say, wow, I'm complete.
Okay, so did Brad want to go? Did Brad have anything to say? Okay, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I didn't see the poll up there. I'm actually shocked, but okay, go ahead. Yeah, I don't really care if people can add anymore. I think a lot of people's points are just dumb. The supremacy clause in the United States, like the number of times that the U.S. has ignored the UN. 2003, we invaded fucking Iraq, did we not? I recall that. In 2001, we went ahead and went full tilt and did Afghanistan, despite the fact that the UN asked for a calm, measured approach and a consultation against all the U.S. actions. We didn't give a flying fuck. And the U.S. tried to pass binding resolution that we wouldn't invade everything. And the U.S. said, go ahead, try to enforce it. Nothing there. We aren't bound by any of these. Let's see. There's multiple times. We like the number of times the UN wanted to bind and tie up Israel, and the U.S. said, well, fuck you. Go ahead, try it. We still sent weapons over there. We still sent financial aid, despite them wanting to, condemn and hold court and put Bibi Netanyahu in jail and hold him as a war criminal. I mean, holy shit. The withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. The UN wanted that binding. Trump pulled that out. So guess what? We didn't suffer any consequences. Again, there's no enforcement. The UN is a paper tiger. I don't care if it's located in New York City. You could put it in Beijing for a life there. it's not going to fucking matter. The U.S. decides what it's going to do, when it's going to do it, and how it's going to do it.
William, can you mic up? William, please. What mic up?
Wow. Okay. So again, we are not bound to anything with the UN, and at any point in time, we will and have multiple times ignored whatever the hell they want to, regardless of their wishes. If that was the case, you know the number of times we would have been in trouble? Holy shit. Like, I can't believe people really think the UN is our governing body internationally. It's not. I land there.
Could I get in the lineup?
I'll quickly respond, and there are murderers that evade law and are not prosecuted. That does not mean that law doesn't exist. I guess this is asking too much from Clubhouse, but there's a difference between normative conversation, right, and legal conversation, more specifically, and the actual existence and enforcement. If you ask me, enforcement powers of the UN is a strong, I would say no, but that doesn't mean anything for the purposes of these conversations.
But it does, Emperor. The concept of enforcement in the law, we can get into just the anatomy of law. Go ahead.
Can he finish, please?
Yeah, there's also a lot of this confusion that the UN, I guess, the UN, the Paris Agreement has something to do with UN, but not really. Like, it's only UN is just like the conference venue. Yeah, and that's all, right? Like, the ICC that under which you mentioned Israel, et cetera, has very little to do with UN. They have some reporting requirement to UN. That's the extent that they have to do with UN. That's like a different body. You have some meme of the United Nations, right? We're talking about specific things. Catch up.
Oh, hey, can I get in the queue?
Yeah, hold on. I think Abby wanted to respond. Abby, did you want to respond to Emperor?
No, let other people. That's all right. I was just going to get philosophical with him about law, but let other people talk.
Go ahead, Rich.
Oh, Anson, I was just going to ask for clarification. You do realize it's 238 times 1,000, right? I was just checking.
Well, with my background in physics and, STEM stuff and teaching in school, I think I have a pretty good idea what the answer is. It's a very simple answer. Look at my comment in the chat, and I'll leave it at that.
Hold on. I just want to really quickly say, I normally don't do this, but Doc of the Apocalypse, welcome to the month. Please join the house. I see you down there, sir. It's always a pleasure to see you pop in these rooms. I think you might like this room, Doc. So if you're so inclined, if you enjoy the conversation, please join them up. Okay. Next speaker. Thank you.
I want to say, Anson, your answer is wrong. I don't care what physics you know. I do appreciate your service. If you did serve and you're a captain, my grandfather was retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Korean War and flew the Sabre. So, 132 successful missions.
Yeah, Sean, the reason I was asking that question was,
It's a crazy answer. Not
Sean,
not 2.3 million.
Yeah, Sean, the reason I was asking the question is because we always hear boomers that'll be like, oh, these young kids, they don't know anything. They're uneducated and they don't know math and they don't know how to read. But then they go and ask like boomers, like, when was the Declaration of Independence signed? And they go, 1865? And it's like, Anson answers 2.3 million, what is clearly 238 times 1,000. It's 238,000.
This is why Nancy Pelosi and older people should actually have. This is why we should have term limits.
I think that'll go completely off, Sean, but
I figure it was a vision issue. Maybe
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck.
Anthony,
You're not going to go after him like that.
Gentlemen.
You're not going to go after him like that.
Gentlemen,
Can I get my point?
You don't go after people saying they don't know their math.
I
don't care who the fuck you are. I don't care who the fuck you are. If you say something wrong, I'm going to call your shot.
Okay. Anson would like to respond. I keep saying, gentlemen, please, one mic. Anson would like to respond. Anson, go ahead. Anson, would you like to respond? I saw you were off mic. If not, we'll just give it back to Brad.
basic math, 238,000, or 238 times 10 to the third is equal to 238,000. Now, if you want to argue with that result, I can't figure out how you can do it with simple frigging arithmetic.
Anson, you answered
But go
2.3
ahead.
million. Anson, you answered 2.3 million.
I said 238,000 times 10 to the third is 238 times 10 to the 1,000 is 230,000. If I mistyped it, I apologize.
That's what we were asking, Anson. That's why we're asking for clarification.
No, it's a simple fucking question.
No, we all get
If we
confused.
can't agree on that, all right.
That's why I was asking. Maybe you didn't see the comma or something. I thought you thought that it was 238,000 or 238 times 10,000. That's why I was like, like he's calling us all dumb, but we all answered 238,000. But Anthony answered 2,380,000. That's why we're asking.
United States is not bound.
That's because I'm a dumb old man.
No, I figured it was maybe you need your glasses. That's all.
I can't believe that the stage just erupted in chaos because he picked the wrong number in the poll. But okay, gentlemen.
Well, it was an interruption with a bad argument. That's all. And so we had to respond. I mean, I don't care your age.
You have to drag them over, though.
I wasn't dragging them into the mud.
Hold on. Nobody's selected 23,800. Just want to put that out.
And fuck, a lot of you, I would trust Captain Anson, who's actually piloted a nuclear submarine beneath the waves fighting people, than a lot of you fucking twat waffles with your basic fucking computer that you went to figure out that fucking answer. Leave the man alone.
Thank you. That part. Leave the man alone. Jesus Christ. Like, for real. Y'all can't be serious right now.
Well, I'm just saying, let's put him back in his subs. He's going to hit the damn wrong country with those numbers. Period.
Remember when you were looking
You know, Nye and Brad, you don't have to protect me.
Captain, I was a boast
I
to
can
me.
stand strong, and I won't hit the wrong fucking target with my submarine because I'm 83 years old and I don't have a submarine to shoot from. God damn it!
Yeah, I just want to say we all answered correctly, except for Roger, which clearly did it on purpose.
Okay, I'm going to pick the wrong answer, too. To trigger everybody. Now everybody's
And I apologize for diverting from a rational discussion. I just got a little pissed. Sorry, shouldn't have done that.
Anson and I apologize for any disrespect. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I know I came across that way. My apologies to you, sir. And I do appreciate you serving for us and appreciate you wholeheartedly. I mean it. Thank you.
And I was just busting your chops, Anson. That's all. You're a sailor. You should know that.
Well, I think that's all. I mean, it's all very humorous, and I hope we'll come back to that. But I do think that the controversy between Abby and Emperor is really, it raises a hard question here, right? To what degree is unenforceable law the law of the land, and to what degree do we expect people to respect it? I mean, people get away with crimes. That's true. So just somebody getting away with a crime doesn't mean the law is not the law, or it doesn't matter. There are, though, laws which, broadly speaking, are not enforced. And I think Brad is right to bring that up. It's like if we say in Texas, the speed limit, it says it's 70. But I tell you what, I get on the freeway and it's 90 basically all the way to wherever I'm going. So I don't know we can really say that it's against the law to go 90 in this state. I mean, practically speaking, if you do it, nothing's going to happen to you. If somebody else does it, nothing's going to happen to them. So you kind of got to accept that it's something ordinary people do, and that's just part of understanding how the world works, really. Whereas like murder, okay, you murder people, probably you're in a lot of trouble. Okay, I'll be really honest with you. If you hit other cars with your car, well, that's not like speeding, and that's not gonna, be overlooked. So, right? I mean, there's a continuum here, but I could see the argument being that all these UN continuing resolutions are on the, the far, I guess, left end of that continuum where they basically don't matter.
That's what I'm kind of gaining is that it says membership, and I got a membership to a gym. I'm not forced to go. Should probably go more often, all that, but it's a membership. And if I don't go, there's nothing going to happen. But as you said with the speed limit, even though everybody may be going 90, if I get popped because I'm in a red car, sports car, and they decide to pull me over, there's a penalty to pay. So I'm kind of looking at it like, yeah, gym membership, speed limit ticket, I can get away with it unless I'm in the wrong vehicle. And maybe somebody want to just check it out and pull me over. But then I got to go to court. So, yeah, I'm just looking at membership. It seems like a gym membership. It's what I'm learning from the conversations.
There are obligations that we have as a nation when we enter into a treaty, and they're enforceable. And what he was trying to say, I think if I understand his argument, is under the Supremacy Clause, if something was ratified by the Senate, a treaty, then in fact we're bound by it. So which is true as a nation, we're bound by a treaty and the ramifications if we breach the treaty. But the UN doesn't have enforcement on us. And we were very careful as to what we're bound to, and we pick and choose what treaties and what obligations we want to enter into. And our Senate, which is, that will then ratify the decision, and our House can pass laws, as well as our executive, with respect to foreign policy, that can reverse those obligations and can change the course in our foreign policy. So I'm still trying to understand where he's trying to go with this. The whole UN Charter and all that it is advisory form. It is not something that we then pay, a penalty, or our country. I'm trying to understand what he thinks happens if we choose not to follow something that the UN votes on.
Even outside the UN, Abby, if one country makes a treaty with another, makes a promise to another, what is your condition on that? That there's no enforcement? So
there is enforcement, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the UN.
You're right. I just wanted to understand
Charter.
Hold on. I just wanted to understand if international law is a thing at all.
That's a whole other question, Daniel. I think we've talked about that in rooms, whether it is, and what's enforceable and how is it enforceable. If you went, in your Texas example, you still broke the law. You broke the law if you have a tail light out, even though they may not stop you for it for 20 years. But if they happen to stop you, you broke the law. So, that's specific, and there's enforcement as a result of it. They can enforce a penalty, whether it's a civil or a criminal one.
Sure.
The UN, it's more in an advisory role, but we have obligated ourselves to some treaties with respect to the UN, but not all, and not ones that would bind our nation.
Thank you. Some, from what you just said, some bound by
the law. At some point, Daniel, it was like all offered to me, right? Can I talk? So, Abby, like on enforcement, I agree with you. I have never argued anything on the enforcement, right? I'm having a normative conversation. The United States has voluntarily accepted obligations enumerated under the UN Charter, right? Specifically self-executing parts of the UN Charter, which is most of it, right?
Not most of it. That's what's important.
It has conditioned, let me get to an agreement. It has conditioned ICJ, International Court of Justice, jurisdiction. So I would agree with you there. But this whole conversation started, right, because some other guy was on the stage arguing that the United States, by striking Iran, violated Constitution. And I said, right, that the stuff that binds the United States is not only the Constitution and War Powers Act, which I don't think, well, I mean, there are disagreements on it, but in my reading of it, it doesn't seem that the United States has violated it. That's its domestic law. But the United States is also bound, right, by a self-executing clause of the UN Charter, specifically Article 2, which limits countries' abilities to go to war. So only legal way under the UN Charter, because it prohibits, because of World War II and everything else, right, it prohibits crime of aggression. So attacking another country is only legal under the UN Charter, which, again, the United States has accepted this condition, is only legal under the self-defense clause. And that self-defense clause is further restricted. Countries disagree on the interpretation of the self-defense clause. The consensus opinion in international law is that anticipatory self-defense, like the one that the United States argues in attacking Iran, is not a thing. The United States disagrees. I was only going to say that majority opinion in international law is that anticipatory self-defense is not a thing, because we don't want to do stuff like Russia does in Ukraine, because it also argued anticipatory self-defense when it launched the war against Ukraine, right? We don't want to do stuff like Hitler did with invasion of Poland, because Hitler also argued anticipatory self-defense, right? So for a good reason, those things are prohibited under the UN Charter. The United States voluntarily accepted the UN Charter, which includes Article 2, which is self-executing. So it has obligations that it only can act in self-defense if in use of force. So it's valid to criticize that the United States is breaking the UN Charter and its own voluntary obligation, specifically Article 2, when it attacked Iran. This is
well, but then you have to define emperor. Yeah. So I don't get too legal with you, but you'd have to define your terms, and you'd have to define what a threat is. You'd have to define what war is. You'd have to define what's a valid threat. Certain intelligence that made you, and that's what I was trying to argue with him. That once the intel came back that it was threshold capacity, and the period of time before there was full proliferation was from the Houthis to Hezbollah or vice versa, and under the control of Iran. So the threats were not just nuclear, and there was a lot of, I think there's the question is there enough intel for a nation to feel that they can invoke that right of self-defense? Or
those things are going to...
And we can look at the Six-Day War as an example of it with Israel. Okay.
I mean, there are valid disagreements on this. What I offered you is...
Yes, no, I know them, but I stick by, when you say it, and you say it very eloquently, but all of those terms, all of those provisions that have to be the standard to meet in order to invoke the self-defense, all of those can be broken apart as to what justifies a threat. And what we could determine in our nation is a threat may be different than it's viewed in another nation.
Well, that's
right.
Not, okay, sure. And for you, that might be satisfactory, right? But we're talking about international law. Those terms, as they are written, are interpreted by different lawyers differently. That's why I said consensus opinion in international law. Again, because we don't have a supreme authority, because, again, ICJ was supposed to be supreme authority, but the United States does not accept the jurisdiction of ICJ, or rather conditions the jurisdiction of ICJ. So we don't have a supreme authority of international law, and countries determine whether other countries' actions are legal or illegal for themselves, right?
But do you think we should? So let me ask you, do you think we should? Do you think one country that has certain morals and principles to be bound by another country's? I mean, I guess it's a very philosophical question, but do you think there should be one supreme world law?
I think, I don't want to go that far, but I think if we're criticizing Russia attack of Ukraine as illegal, right, then it opens the question of the standard, right? Because Russia also argues anticipatory self-defense. right? They were saying that Ukrainians are genociding Russian population or about to genocide Russian-speaking population. That's why they attacked. That's their anticipatory self-defense claim. I, as along with the rest of the international community, reject the notions of anticipatory self-defense unless in extremely dire circumstances, which means immediate threat. And by immediate, and this is consensus opinion. Immediate threat is attack is about to launch now, not in a week, not in a month, not in some later date, but it is about to happen right now, right? That is the standard for immediacy.
I don't know. The 6-day war, was that going to happen that day? Was it going to happen within 3 days, 5 days? Do you think there was clearly a justification for Israel to strike when they did in 1967? So tell me, what's an imminent threat? Can an imminent threat be the proliferation of a nuclear weapon and the capability to deliver it? So is that enough of an imminent threat? And also having your ships attacked by proxies and your troops attacked by proxies? You tell me, what's an imminent threat?
Again.
Sorry, I'm going to have to, someone else is going to have to jump in, and I got to go to dinner. But
please let somebody else jump in.
Sorry, and if it's disturbing.
I mean, this is like a particularly detailed issue, which we're not gonna. Then it's coming down to what is an imminent threat, right? But I think the broader concern here is that international law has written a lot of checks it can't cash. No one who has the actual problem of considering an imminent threat is turning to international law to address that situation. They're on their own and they know it. And there's many other areas where, we would like for there to be law in this area. We would like for there to be a court we could go to, but there isn't. And nations have to appeal to the court of war to sort things out. And I think here, the people who trust in international law trust too much, basically, and need to get real. And that's mostly Europe, to be totally honest, at this point.
I'm not European, I'm not American. I agree with you, but from other standpoint, I think they should, like we collectively, as people living, should learn from the lessons of World War II and strengthen international law, right? Because we don't want to end up in a situation pre-World War II and pre-League of Nations, so the League of Nations was very flawed, right? Without any governance of these issues, so that everybody can attack everybody. That's not a good world to live in. So I think everyone has a vested interest to have good actors on the international stage that follows established rules. The rules are imperfect, the institutions are imperfect, the laws are not necessarily perfect, right? And maybe they, as you have said, can cash the check, right? They are too ambitious maybe, but that doesn't mean they normatively shouldn't be held to some, aspiration. So that would be my argument.
I also think we leave off a really important part of this discussion, which is the cultural effect. There's a lot that happens between not just the UN, but all these other organizations on a global stage that have things that occur outside the nation state that are beneficial to life. You would not want to have a world without it. You can improve it. You can take whatever's not cashing the check, as Emperor was just saying. And let's be clear, Jason, just to put it in context, like there is a field of law called international law that goes beyond the United Nations itself. And, there is standing that occurs from one nation's laws that propagate to another as well. I mean, is the judge still here to validate this? Adam, you can validate it. There are precedents that end up, getting propagated from one country to another all the time. I mean, this has recently happened, with a group of old ladies in Switzerland that were able to successfully prosecute a lawsuit against their own government, a climate law, and it got used as precedent immediately in 4 or 5 other countries.
All right. Are we ready for a new topic, ladies and gentlemen, or do we want to continue with the review?
mean, let's try to be constructive. I would be happy to talk about something else. What are you doing? What are you doing over the weekend?
Particular, the conversation.
You're cutting in and out. You're cutting in and out. But yeah, like what are you guys doing over the weekend? Let's talk about that.
Nai, can you tell us about your room tomorrow afternoon in Access Hollywood?
Oh, wow. Yeah, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central, I have a house here for those who like
It's a name now.
Can you hear me, Scarlett? Am I coming through all right? Okay, cool. Yeah, I have a house on here. It is certainly not as thrilling and exciting as being in the muff, but we do talk about conspiracy.
No. They were arguing and fighting. Russia was fighting.
That's why everybody came in, by the way. That's why all those other folks came in. Because they all wanted to, like, sort this out. You know what I mean?
I was asking Brent about how much trouble Candace Owens is in, and shoot the pooch comes to mind as one of the things that, like, where did that come from? Is that accurate? Shoot the pooch?
I've not heard.
Meaning like she's in really big trouble. Where did I get that from?
It's generally through the pooch, huh?
All right, I'll stand corrected.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard that expression. It'll be interesting if she wins her lawsuit. I mean, if she wins,